I just finished my engine rebuild. I ended up having to rebuild my engine due to a bearing slipping.
Oof.
And
ouch.
Yeah. So we ended up doing
And, real quick.
and
yeah, it hurts everybody, right?
That had a lot of pain behind it. Welcome to Third Pedal Podcast. I'm Zach.
I'm Jacob.
Welcome to the show.
Welcome. How's it going, man?
It's good.
It's been
going good. It has been a
bit.
minute. Seems like it.
Yeah. So what do we want to hit first? This week, it's going to be a special episode. In a minute, we're going to talk about all of the stuff you guys have sent in. So we've gotten a video about a build that one of you did. We've got a couple questions that came in too that we want to cover. And just go over things that you guys sent. We've said this a lot. We're probably beating a dead horse at this point, but like this whole podcast is really, it's not about just us sitting talking on camera.
Yeah.
It's just a big car club. That's pretty much all it is.
Yep.
So even right now while we're recording, we've got a live going on TikTok where we're interacting with everybody too, that we had a little behind the scenes moment there too. And then now we're just going to leave it on during, because we're talking about everything. I mean, the guys who have sent us in are probably watching it too. So,
yeah.
But yeah, so we're just going to run over some of those stories and then
like
see where it goes.
What the cool thing is, so like you said, this is all for you guys. Like you guys are a crew. Everything we talk about when we are talking with potential sponsors, whoever we're talking about, like we talk about you guys like you're us, you're a crew. So like this is all really for you. We cannot wait to get out to shows this year.
Yes.
We're gonna do some track events, some car shows. I think eventually we'll post that up on our website. Everything we're gonna be confirmed to be at. We've got a little bit of scheduling conflict with a few, but we're working on it. But the cool thing about that is you guys have started to send stuff into us, asking questions. Hey, what should I do for this engine swap? I've got this car that you guys used to have. I heard you talk about it. What would you do with this?
Right.
And we're just like, every time, immediately when those things go through, like we're doing all this, by the way. Like this is downloaded on both of their phones. We are logged in on all our socials all the time. So like,
there's nobody behind the camera, nobody else. It's literally us.
We don't have a producer who's like, hey guys, you got a message, you got to address it. It's like, it's him calling me in the middle of the day, be like, dude, did you see this guy sent us an email? He sent us his build, he wants help with it. And we're just like, we get pumped about it. We're like, all right, we got day jobs, we got to finish this, and we'll talk about it in the evening. We'll talk about it on recording. So we get super excited anytime you guys send something over. We love talking about this stuff. So yeah, should we get into it?
Yeah, let's just get right into it. So which one do we want to do? Well, let's do the first one that we got.
Yeah. Let's do, it's a Veloster.
Yes. Yeah, so talk about it a little bit here.
Velosters are, okay, I think Velosters are pretty sweet. So
I don't know anything about them.
They are.
They look pretty cool, but I don't know.
A high-level view, they're a 4-cylinder turbo. They come in a stick shift. They're front-wheel drive. They're a hatchback. Hatchbacks are awesome. They sound awesome. I mean, even in the newer models, like Hyundai recognized it. In their newer models, they're doing the Veloster N, which comes with a pops and bangs tune. I think it comes with launch control. It still comes in a stick shift in 2023. Like and we talked about that in a previous podcast. Everything that comes in stick shift still, and that was one of the main ones,
including a Mitsubishi Mirage,
which apparently exists still for some reason. Actually, saw one the other day, and I'm like, that might be a 2022.
That's
like it looks like a 2006. It might be a 2022 because they just never changed it.
That's so funny. You're right.
But anyways, I think they're pretty sweet. They're like we were talking about this a little bit. You have a little bit more knowledge of like the pre-2000, what did we say, 2005-ish?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Around that. And I have a little bit more knowledge of like the later 2000s up to the 2020s, kind of the newer car tech type of stuff. So this is one of those that I think is going to be iconic. Yes. The Veloster in like the next decade or two decades of like car tuning. Right. Because it's going to be that accessible, cheaper. It's going to be the Civics before they
it's a GTI.
Before you couldn't get a Civic for less than like $5,000. Like they're going to be the GTIs, the Civics. Like they're part of that, and they're already part of that, as you can see by what's this guy's name? Austin.
Yeah, Austin.
Yeah.
So anyway, thanks Austin for sending this in. We're gonna go over your car now. We're super pumped about it. I just realized too. Can you pull up? Do you have our Gmail pulled up? Because we can play his audio so we can hear it. We'll edit it into the episode. And then we're just going to scroll through his Instagram here and check this thing out. So it looks like he used to have a Subaru. And then I don't know if it was congruent with this or if he got the Veloster afterwards. But yeah, he's been doing a pretty big engine build on the Veloster. Yeah. And then he's got some cool modifications coming along the way. It looks like he's got a big front mount on it. He's got a nice spoiler sticking off the back now. It looks really, really good. And I'm not like... Nothing against him. I'm just not a huge Veloster fan. Like I don't know much about anything JDM really at all.
I would say you're a little less excited about the JDM tuner stuff. Yeah. And that was always like what I was super hyped about. Just starting with the Datsun and like I always wanted a 240Z or 240SX, 240Z for sure, but 240SX. And they were totally inaccessible. Even at the time I was shopping, I was like, they're just way too expensive.
Yeah, I just never knew anything about it. It was always my default was always either Audi or Volkswagen. And then now that I have a WRX, I feel like I get looped into those communities more. Like as I start commenting and sharing my stuff on Facebook pages and stuff. stuff.
Yeah,
And,
Subaru's
it seems interesting.
Not to sidetrack too much, but WRX Subaru seem to be in like their own space.
Yeah.
Where it almost ties into like the Euro crowd a little bit
It's
for
weird.
some reason.
It's a weird
maybe because of
in-between.
like rally heritage and like
Maybe.
that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But anyways, so Austin, we got a video from you. We're gonna play this. We're gonna edit it in because we got a lot of other things we want to talk about.
Yeah.
Or we're just gonna listen to it here live. So if you are on TikTok live, we've got you on here, and we'll listen to it together here.
Yeah.
My name is Austin, and this is my 2013 Veloster Turbo build. Current plan with this car is going to be a show car. Going to Slam It Enough, Stupid Cold.
We should check out those shows, Steve.
Any meet in general, to be honest. But I just finished my engine rebuild. I ended up having to rebuild my engine due to a bearing slipping.
Oof.
And
Ouch.
yeah. So we ended up doing...
And-
Pause real quick.
and
And yeah, it hurts everybody, right?
That had a lot of pain behind it. Yeah, man, that is a build. Like some people say, like, oh, look at my build, and they slap like a cold air intake on it, which is fine if that's all you're gonna do for right now. There's gonna be a lot of people who criticize you for that's not a build. Like wheels are not a build, intakes are not a build. Like both. Some people say like full bolt-ons is not a build because you didn't build something. But bro, Austin, you built that.
This
thing.
is built.
This is
more built than either of our cars.
Yeah, I haven't gone that in depth.
No.
Besides, I have a BMW engine in the garage that I went in depth that far to tear it down.
Yep.
Which hasn't come back yet.
Right.
So
right.
it's still in the
this is impressive though.
The engine graveyard.
The amount of work that's gone into this thing, and then not only that, but the way he's finishing it on the outside, it looks sharp.
And I love to see it with something like a Veloster too, because more people will do this with a what people would consider a more traditionally like mainstream or cooler car, for example, right? So like someone maybe would do this more realistically with a BRZ or an FRS or something, which is not necessarily just because it's cooler, but because the engine was built by Subaru and the head gaskets explode all the time.
Right.
But
well, and like parts are more readily available for something like that, I would think.
For sure.
Like, there's a lot more people tuning a WRX than there are rebuilding a Veloster from the ground up.
But I did look into it a little bit. So when he sent this in, that was the first I really looked into Veloster tuning stuff like that. There's a huge aftermarket business for this stuff.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's super awesome.
Interesting. Okay, cool. Yeah, let's keep going.
Oh, let me decline this phone call real quick. All right, keep going.
A KDM Tuners rebuild kit, which is billet forged internals. Went with a 6-element front mount intercooler with the AV6 blow-off valve from 6-element. Did a CHRA high flow 11-blade turbo, so it's just a stuffed turbo at the moment. And then I am waiting on my stage 2 tune. And I am running the EK1 Pro tuning module from 6-element as well. And then I am rocking a Van Bam's shift knob.
I love that
from,
shift knob.
Bam's shifts. But the main goal with this is just to turn it into a show car. Future plans with this, it's getting a set of coilovers, a new set of wheels, and then
pretty sweet.
a wide body kit. I currently have a GT spoiler at the house ready to get installed onto it.
And it's on now. We got pictures of it now.
That's pretty much it.
That's awesome.
It looks so
other
good.
than that, there's no horsepower goals for it other than what it's got right now. And then after the tune is loaded up onto it, we'll see where it sits, and then I'm getting it dynoed.
Sweet.
Probably in the next month.
Yeah, no dyno yet.
So that's what it looks like for.
Dude, it looks awesome.
It looks so good.
Especially
Great
with the bumper
job.
off of it.
Oh,
like
man.
that. I think it's all completed now.
Yeah.
And you can see, I love when you can see the intercooler peeking out through the bumper.
I mean,
It's
look
like,
at it now. Like you can still see it in that bottom area.
Like, oh, it's just a Veloster. And then you see the front mount peeking out. And that thing
right
is cool.
now,
It's
the
so
bumper
awesome.
doesn't fit on it due to the fog lights.
Oh, sure. So you got to fit up, dude. Nice job.
It looks awesome.
Plan on getting a new one anyways. So thank
Awesome,
you guys
dude.
for having me on here. Can't wait to talk to you guys more.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
I love it.
Dude, it's so cool. Thank you so much for sending it in. I cannot wait to see what this thing dynos at. It's very cool.
Let's guess. So it's a, I believe it's a 2.0 in the Veloster.
Yep.
It might be a 1 point something, but I think it's a 2.0. He's got stock turbo.
Yep.
But he's got front mount intercooler. I'm assuming,
Is it a stock turbo?
That's what he said. He's got an 11 blade high flow, which is a stock turbo.
Okay.
So stock turbo, but he's going stage 2.
Yep.
Rebuilt engines, forged internals,
Right.
so he can handle some boost.
Right.
And those stock turbos they put in those things in most cars, even the Audi stock turbos, like you go stage 1, stage 2, up to like sometimes a stage 3, depending on the Audi.
Right.
The stock turbo can handle it. It's not going to love it.
Right.
But it can handle it.
Right.
So they kind of overbuild the turbo sometimes in these cars. So I'm gonna say that's gonna be pushing, and it's front wheel drive, so you have low drivetrain mechanical loss.
Yep.
For power.
Yep. Because we're talking wheel horsepower now, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're gonna I guess dyno. That's what we're gonna do. Okay.
Yeah. So I think it's gonna dyno in the mid 3s. Is my guess.
I was gonna say 380.
Yeah.
I don't know why that feels like a number to me.
350 to 380, I think is probably reasonable.
Yeah.
So I know you're saying I love it. He's like, I don't have any power goals, but it's like you're doing all the cool stuff though too at the same time. So, but I get that.
It's
Like
so cool.
you're not like, oh, I gotta hit 500 horsepower because you want to just like flex on people, right?
Right.
It's like
it is very cool to say you have forged internals, and I don't really have a power goal. We'll just see where it
Yeah.
lands. It's like,
All right.
whoa.
save some for the rest of us, bro.
But anyway, awesome. Thank you so much,
Yeah,
Austin,
that's
for sending
awesome.
that in. That is super rad. But all right, what do we want to hit next?
Let's go to another one I'm super excited about. This guy emailed us.
Okay.
And he is, I'll pull up the
cool.
email.
Yeah, pull it up there. Real quick.
He is shopping for here we go. The title is Engine Swap. If you want us to read an email super quick, title it something like that.
Yes.
Engine Swap. We're like, yes. Okay, so this is JV. Shout out JV. Thanks for reaching out to us. He is looking for a engine swap suggestion. So he is okay. I should have read this all before. Reaching out because I would love to hear y'all's take on engine swaps. I was going to do one in my Focus RS, but opted to keep that as my stable daily.
Smart.
Good.
Smart.
Smart. Looking for a 944, and then or a Datsun. He said Datsuns are almost unattainable, so my choice is made for me. So we right off the bat we read this and we're like, holy crap!
So it's us.
So my first car, if you guys haven't listened to episode 1, my first car is 79 Datsun 280ZX 2+2. Love that thing to death. I'm still occasionally shopping for one. I was like this close to shipping one from San Diego recently. It was a stripped down rust-free shell.
Yes.
Well, rust-free in quotes.
Yeah.
As much as you can get rust-free for those. And then you still got your 944. So we love these cars. I would think we know them fairly well through and through because where we started, where most car guys started, is we learned how to fix cars out of necessity.
Right.
Like,
we learned
I
because
couldn't afford to pay anybody.
Right. And
so
like I blew my transmission, so I was either going to get to work or not. And so
you
had to figure it out.
Blew your timing and bent rods, and you're like, I guess I'm learning how to do a rebuild now. So
how much is a new motor? Oh, okay, cool. Guess we're rebuilding this one.
so that being said, engine swaps are like things we've dove into so deeply with these cars.
Especially because like when these cars came out, they were benchmarks for speed and stuff like that. But it's been 40 years. The 944 turns 40 this year.
It's
so
insane.
Like the power that these cars are producing is nowhere near what's competitive nowadays. Like going from my WRX to driving my Porsche, that means a half of the horsepower. And so there's naturally, as part of that, you're looking at engine swaps all the time. You're wondering like, okay, what could I do? Like, could I add a turbocharger to this naturally aspirated engine? What's that going to involve? Nah, it's kind of crazy.
Because there's two things you can do, right? You can improve the base, what it's got, which is there's pluses and minuses. The plus is ideally it's already running. Right. You already have the platform. It's already meant for that. Right. And you're just doing power adders and then doing some tuning to make it work with that.
And theoretically at that point too, you've already vetted out the rest of the system. So like at my point, like it wasn't get an old car and then boom, let's do a swap on it. It was get an old car, drive it and get through the suspension and the brakes and the weird electrical gremlins and like all that weird stuff to get to the point where you're like, okay, now the last thing is it's slow. So like, what do I want to do about it?
Yep.
And so yeah, like we've definitely been there and felt that itch for like, okay, well, what do you do? Do you just, like you're saying, do you go off of the base platform or do you look to something else? And that opens up such a can of worms because there's unique routes that you can go. There's the tried and true. So like LS swap everything. There's like that group of people. But it's a lot. But I think he says kind of what he's looking at engine swap wise. So, and then we can go over kind of what our experience has been with looking into this because I know we've both looked into it a lot.
So he's looking at a K-swap for the 944, which I don't know if we've dove in. You maybe have dove in that a little bit.
No, I don't know anything about K-swap stuff.
So I know a little tiny bit. Okay. So with that, I'm needing to scrap the transaxle, which would do away with the fun aspect of the car. Yeah. Try to do a swap and try to preserve the transaxle or just build a motor that comes with it. So that's what he's considering.
Did you say what year it is? Or is it a turbo?
944.
Just the 944.
I don't think he has it yet. He's looking for a 944. So I would say,
I got thoughts
you
on
said
that
Datsuns are almost unattainable. I would say if you're I like Datsuns a lot.
Yeah.
944 is obviously really
Yeah.
cool. But the thing I like about the Datsun is it's got, I would think, I haven't dove into 944 as
Yeah.
much, but I think it's got a little bit better aftermarket support.
Yeah, I think
like, so I went through, when I was looking for that, I found a 73 240Z, like dream car. And I went through and I sent it to you guys. I had a whole shopping cart. I have a whole note of all the aftermarket parts.
You found the car and then you're like, hey, by the way, I've been working on this. And it was your entire like 3-year build plan.
Yeah. It was way too much money. But suspension mods, disc brake setups, engine, interior, exterior, like all of that stuff is super available and for reasonable prices too. So I would say for Datsun, the hardest part is actually finding a decent shell.
Sure.
What I would do is obviously Facebook Marketplace is the new Craigslist. It's the best way to, I would think, shop for a car like that.
Totally.
I do the largest radius possible, and then I search the furthest area out I wouldn't mind driving for something.
Sure.
So like, for example, we're in Green Bay. I shopped all the way south of Chicago to like Nashville area, to like basically 3 states surrounding.
Yeah.
Because that's a spot I wouldn't mind, like us taking Dad's truck, getting a trailer, driving there, picking this thing up.
Right.
And then the second thing I did after that was a little more unrealistic, was I went to other warmer areas.
Yeah.
I know where there's probably going to be more rust-free shells. I searched Texas, Arizona, California, and looked on their Facebook Marketplace, where there's actually some very reasonable prices on those cars because they're a lot more common.
Yeah. So the big thing here too, it seems like he's kind of looking local, I think, and like kind of looking for, I'd be interesting to know what your budget is and kind of what you're looking at, because that dictates a lot of this too.
For sure.
If you've got the money to like go get a Southern car, that's the way to go. Because like
100%.
Especially if you're talking engine swaps, like you kind of don't really care. I mean, I guess this is another question too, is are you going to do kind of like what we did with our cars? Are you going to drive it for a little while first and fix everything else up and then get to that point? Which I definitely think is kind of the way to go. I've had my 944 for, I don't know, since 2013. 9 years. 9 years now. Wow. So in that time, it still has the factory engine, the 2.5 liter. It's like 130 horsepower. It's pretty underwhelming. It's a cool.
It is fun to drive though.
It is fun. Well, and that's the thing is like, so that's kind of the couple parts to this, right? Is like, so you're going to get the car. I would definitely recommend getting something, unless you're going to keep this focus as your daily and you're okay with not driving this thing for the next, whatever your estimate on how long the project is going to be times 3. Like if you're okay with not driving it for that long, then go ahead, get a shell and just start building the thing from the ground up. But like what I highly recommend is getting something that's at least drivable, that you can feel, because then you can kind of get a feel for the weight distribution of the car. You get a feel for the suspension. You can kind of figure out what you want to do with it and go from there. And then it kind of depends. So the couple routes you can go, like I've looked into this a lot with my 944. You can add a turbocharger to the engine. You can totally do that, or a supercharger.
Yeah, it can handle what, like 6 or 7 psi.
Yeah, something
stock?
like that, which could get you into the 200s. So that's plenty of horsepower. Plenty of horsepower would be fun.
Because we're also like, to put it in perspective, so a 200 horsepower car, you're like, yeah, cool. Camry that is new has more horsepower than that, but this is a super light car, like they're very light, especially once you're taking out all of the like emission stuff and like some of the interior, and like if you're doing a little bit of weight reduction, it's a very light car. It's a lot more raw feeling than a new modern car. So if you drive like a more modern stick shift car, it's a little bit numb. Like there's a lot, like there's more safety, there's more safety's fine, but there's more comfort stuff.
Like the safety, well, that's
safety's
a good
fine,
thing, actually.
but there's more like comfort stuff to it. So like they have like the hill assist on most modern manual cars, where like you're not going to roll back, which is like how we learned. I burned a whole clutch in my, remember that in my Volkswagen going up hills. We had this Christmas thing, and I burned a whole clutch out of it. So like that's stuff you learn. So all to say, the older cars are a lot more raw. So like that 130 horsepower, you feel all 130 of it going through it, because it's stiff, especially now manual steering rack. If you guys TikTok live here, we went on live working on that thing, pounding away at it for a few hours.
Because that's the whole thing is like, and that's why I definitely recommend driving it before, because you may have you'll get the car and think, well, I got to have X number of horsepower because I heard new cars have this, so I got to have this much horsepower. You probably don't. Like horsepower goes a lot further in an older car like that that's lighter and feels closer to the road. So driving it around a little bit and like vetting out what you actually want to do with the car is helpful. So then those are your 2 routes. You're talking about doing a K swap. So it seems, if you're familiar with that engine, pick something you're familiar with. You don't want to be learning 2 new platforms at the same time. But some other stuff, I know part of this email was kind of asking like, what are some overlooked pieces of engine swaps? Like I think that was in here, right? Or one of the messages, I think that was on the Facebook message that he sent. Was kind of wondering like, what are the things that people usually miss? Like what are the obstacles to doing engine swaps, things like
Yeah.
that. So one thing I'll tell you right off the bat with a 944, regardless of which engine platform you go with, and with any car, I guess, in general, if you're looking at engine swaps, you have to think about things like cross members, like engine mounts, like things like that.
Yep.
So specifically with the 944, it's got a center support underneath the engine that I think every single engine you swap into that car, you have to do a custom oil pan or a dry sump system because it interferes with that. So you have to custom create an oil pan that goes under. You could do a tubular like center support, but that's a whole other thing. So that's a big piece to it, is consider what you're going to do for oil. And for the oil pan, the 944 oil pan is very specific. It comes over and drops down below the back of it. So everything, like all the popular engine swaps for this thing, like you got LS swaps, you have a lot more popular now is the 07K, which is really cool. That's the one that I wanted to do. And then you have like
that
the
actually comes up first when I looked up K-swap.
Interesting.
Yeah,
well,
it's
because it's K24
swap.
turbo on it.
So
you've got the 1.8, you've got the 07K, you've got LS swaps, and then a bunch of other, you got a couple guys doing 2JZs, K swaps, things like that. But that's the biggest thing to consider with that. Consider the framing things. If we talk 07K, that motor was never designed to go the correct way in an engine bay. It was always designed to go sideways. So there's not engine mount systems out there for it. So that's all going to be custom, obviously.
Yeah.
So consider that. Consider the raw, like fitting a square peg in a round hole of trying to get an engine in your engine bay.
Yeah.
Some other stuff that you got to consider too is, think about fuel delivery. Like right now you have the fuel pump back in the fuel tank. You have the whole system running through. You're going to have to manage that to a different engine, figure out like what flow rate you're going to need, everything like that. So fuel system is a big one that I think people focus on mounting and everything up front in the engine bay. They don't really think about delivery, things like that. And then engine management's another huge one too. Like which route do you want to go with engine management? Some people Frankenstein, like a ECU out of whatever car this motor came out of, and then try to hook that up to the whole dash cluster. You've got, tachometer, you've got all these things you need to run through the ECU. So trying to figure out like, okay, what do you want to do that route? Do you want to go full custom? Do you want to do a standalone, like a VEMS or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
I know like Mega Squirt, Micro Squirt are like it's like a DIY tuning thing that they've got. So thinking about like what you want to do for engine management and all that goes into it too, because that's going to then you're talking about like custom wiring harnesses. You're talking about like custom gauges if you're going to replace the stuff that's there. Like there's a lot of things to consider besides just fitting the engine inside.
Yeah. So I think, here's the main thing for JV. So 944, love it.
Yep. If that's the thing that you're going to get, like go for it. I think
for sure.
Any car you're going to do an engine swap on, there's going to be things that are going to be complicated, but pick one and go with it. You're going to love either.
The big points are going to be what is the budget? What is the time frame? Because there's definitely like I just Googled real quick swap kits for it.
Yeah.
The LS one is done and done and done. So like they have tons of kits. It's expensive, but they have kits out there for it. So it's a little more plug and play where it doesn't look like there's a ton for K24. It looks like it's pretty new in the forums.
Yep.
The Audi 1.8 turbo. I have a little bit of experience with that engine from my A4.
And that one, like you can get, so they're like adapting the bell housing to the engine's a big piece too. So like with the 1.8, the advantage is you can get a spacer off of a 924 and it bolts both together. So you don't have to do anything custom. With 07K and everything else, you have to get a whole custom adapter. You have to do that whole thing to get to the torque tube that's in the car to go out. But anyway, keep going. Sorry.
So I would say time frame, budget, and then goals for the car are going to be three big things, because we can talk about all of the things you could possibly do. And we're dreamers too. If you want to sit down and talk about like dreaming about this car and like what it could possibly be, we will absolutely do that. And I did see, so I just looked at his email again. So you're in Minneapolis. That's not that far from us. I would say if you're up for it, if you're ever in the Green Bay area or somewhere around close to here, and you want to, if you haven't driven a 944 in its fairly stock form, you've got some stuff
for now.
Before you lift it,
minute.
if you want to drive one, I would say if you're up to it.
I don't know if it'll be driving. It won't be driving anytime soon, but we'll definitely, if you want to talk about it, like shoot us an email or something, pick our brain.
Yeah.
If it's driving, you're welcome to, but I don't think it's going to be for this summer.
Is it not driving right now?
No, it's completely
because you got the steering rack out.
Yeah,
okay,
I got it totally tore. I don't think it's going to be driving until it's lifted, because that's so the round circle. If you have any questions, shoot us an email. Like I've gone deep into this. I really want to do an 07K swap. I used to have a 5-cylinder Audi. I loved it. 07K is kind of the route I wanted to go. That's becoming popular, so parts prices are going to come down. There are swap kits out there for it now, which is cool. So you don't have to custom do a lot of stuff.
07K for people who aren't fluent in Volkswagen Audi group is the 5-cylinder.
Yes, it's a
turbo.
2.5 liter 5-cylinder. It shares the configuration of half of a R8 V10 engine. Yeah. So it's not similar to in construction, but it is kind of in most people's minds the modern form of the AAN, like the Rally King Audi S2 hill climb car, that whole thing. Like it's the new version of that.
And they're very reasonable to source from junkyards and stuff.
You can get it for like $250 because it came out of Jettas.
Yeah, they put them in Jettas. They put them in some TTs, I think they put them
Rabbit.
in.
Yeah.
Yep, they put them in the Rabbits. They put them in all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's fairly reasonable to get.
Right.
There's going to be a lot of custom stuff with that too, but it sounds like there's some options.
And
so
huge power stuff you can get out of it. But
I think we got some pretty good options for you.
Yes.
To consider.
But yeah, the end of this whole piece of it. So in my journey of all of this, I've wanted to do a swap. I've talked about LS as like a family tribute thing. There's been like a whole bunch of different routes that I wanted to go with this. And where it is now I've got a WRX and I've got this, and this may be end where you end up too, because you've got is it a Focus RS? Is that what I saw in there?
Yeah.
So you've got that. You're kind of in a similar place as me of having a WRX and a 944.
Yep.
So where I opted, I'm not saying this is the right answer, but just where I landed on this is I'm accepting the fact that I don't want to put the money into, because it's gonna be $2-3 to do an engine swap when it all said and done. Because then there's other supporting things that we didn't even get into yet, of making sure your suspension, your brakes, your tires are all up to date with that, which we'll touch on in a second.
I would say like $5,000 is a reasonable budget.
Oh yeah,
because of like you can get the engine
depending on how much DIY you're doing. Anywhere from 3 to 5 for sure. Because you could cheap out on it, you could figure it out. But yeah, if you're for any of it, if you're asking for help or getting kits that are available, you're definitely in the $5,000 range for it, for sure. But for me, I gave up on the whole. I'm like, let's just accept that the 944 is slow, but it's connected and it's fun, and the WRX is going to be the fast car. So I'm actually going to do a Safari build on my 944 now. So it's going to stay factory engine for now, and it's going to like a 4-inch lift and big tires and all that kind of stuff. So that's what we opened it up on our TikTok and everything. That's what everybody voted for and commented on. So that's the route we're going with it. But
well, it was like 50-50, but we were like, we really want to do Safari.
It was in the middle, but then all the comments were like, you should definitely Safari. So we're like, done.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome.
But yeah, so that's the plan there. But yeah, dude, like the big thing, I guess to summarize again, I think we've summarized like 6 times now, but just getting into something, if you can go drive one, you can feel it out, feel what they're like. There's a lot out there. There's tons of forum support stuff out there for it too. Definitely whatever you're considering engine swap wise, for anyone else too, not just 944s, Google it. Somebody else has already thought about it and gotten some info on it. You can get
that's the nice thing with a car that's been around for 4 years.
Dude, right.
Is there's been thousands of other crazy people like us who have thought like, what if I put X, Y, and Z motor into it? Right. And I guess all this with the asterisk, some of the stuff we're talking about, like what's going to be the most realistic or easiest swap. But dude, if you want to be the first to swap the 3-cylinder turbo from the Toyota Corolla or whatever into it, like, dude, be the pioneer and be the first. Just realize it's going to take a lot of time. It's going to be very expensive. But it's anything's possible with enough time and money with cars, essentially.
If it's just if it doesn't have to be your daily driver, like it's not about spending $5,000 now. It's about spending $5,000 over the next like 2-3 years, and you can be slow about it, and you can do it in stages. You could even have the car drive it and be building an engine on the side, getting it ready to go. Because you could take measurements on the real car, be applying that somewhere else, be working on it. Like there's a lot that you can do over time with it. So just kind of get a clear goal, clear idea of what you want to do with an engine platform you're comfortable with. Because like end of the day, like you're not going to notice the difference. If you end up with a 2-liter turbocharged engine from one company versus the next, it's not going to be any different in the seat at all down the road. It's all about just something you're comfortable with, something you want to get parts from, whatever you want to do, make it your build. But yeah, that's kind of, there's a lot that goes into it. Like Google it though. There's a lot of forum posts and stuff about everything you need to consider for an engine swap. But those are some of the things that we've considered for it. But thank you for sending it in, man.
JV, bro, if you want to follow up on that, if you want to shoot us kind of answers to some of that stuff we talked about, like timeline, budget, goals with the car, then we can get a little bit more detailed about like maybe specific what we would think or recommend. Yeah,
we'll give you scenarios. Maybe we'll both do like a write-up of like, all right, if this was my car and this was this, then I would go this route with it.
We'll do a pitch for you. I'll try and find some, we can find links to kits and whatever, stuff like that. We love doing that stuff. So yeah, that's awesome. So what's the next one? I know this one was super recent. Was there another one that came in? I think someone the Datsun.
Oh yeah.
Series EX.
Yeah.
That was on here. So Adam, if you're still on here, we'll get to you. You sent us your Corolla in.
Well, let's do his first because he was on here. So
I think you're still on here.
Yeah, let's pound it up.
So there, let me just swipe away this real quick so I can see where we're at. Sweet.
Woo! What's up, man? Sorry, everybody on the recording. We are currently doing a TikTok live as well. So,
all right. So we've got Adam sent us in on our Instagram at the Third Pedal Podcast at the Third Pedal Podcast.
Correct.
So he's got, I don't know the year of it here. Let's see if he says it's a ST 162. So it's a little different than the Rally Championship one, but it's a Corolla. Celica, my bad. Sorry. It's a Celica with the pop-ups. It looks super clean.
Awesome. It's convertible.
Yeah, it's a vert. This thing is sweet.
It looks awesome. Though. Super, super clean. We'll post, like we said, we'll post pictures in the video version. So if you're watching that, if you're listening on Spotify, tap on the video, check it out. This thing looks great.
GT.
We were doing a live right before the podcast started, and he commented and talked about this thing. But it's so cool. I've never actually paid that much attention to the front end of these.
I was just thinking,
I kind of like the whole wraparound grill in the front.
It's super 80s. It looks awesome.
Yep.
So that's an awesome car, dude. So he says, then he sent some pictures of. We were talking about. I think someone asked on the TikTok live, "What's your favorite rally car?" And then we mentioned Toyota.
Yeah.
And he commented he's got that Celica. So
looks
the
so
Celica
cool.
WRC rally cars, just the golden era of rally was awesome. So he says, "I'm 16, new to the car scene, planning on going to high performance motorsports as my major." That's awesome.
That's so cool.
I didn't even know that was a thing you could do in school.
Yeah, right.
High performance motorsports is a degree now.
I guess
That is awesome, dude.
That's so cool. Yeah, the car looks super clean. It's awesome, man. Being 16, getting into cars, that's so cool.
I was 16 when I got my Datsun.
Yep. Yeah, I was doing whatever dumb stuff on my Jeep, taking doors off and stuff when I was 16. But yeah, that's super great, man. It's exciting that you're getting started at that point, and especially with something really cool to get into. We'd love to hear. I don't think he said in here long-term plans for what's going to happen with the build.
Yeah, he said so. He wants to do a K24A2 engine swap with turbo.
Cool.
No clue where to start. So
no clue where to
I
start.
have no experience with these cars. We did talk a little bit about the swap.
Listen to 30 seconds ago on our
I think the general principles still are the same. So what's your timeline? What's your budget? What's your goals with the car?
Yeah. Well, and something like this too, that's a K series. That's a Honda motor going into Toyota, right? So I'm sure something like that's been explored before. So definitely if you're still on the live here, if you're listening to the episode, go Google your chassis code and swapping that engine code, or even a K-series engine in general, to figure out those things. Maybe there is a little bit more universal bolt pattern as far as it goes from engine to the bell housing or whatever that looks like. Check that out and start looking into it a little bit and see if anybody's done it. That's the best way to start, especially if you're new to all this stuff and you're not going to be the one to I'll just go weld up my own engine mounts to see, all right, this is what I want to put in it. Who has done it and what hacks or what in between ways can I if I actually use the clutch from this car, it's going to go between.
Yeah, you'd be forums are your best friend. Facebook groups are awesome because people will be like, all right, this model year of this engine bolts up to the transmission of this model year of this, which fits in this model year of this, and they have done years and years of research and compile that all into a few posts.
Yes,
and you get to see experience of them. Actually, I tried that too, and actually this one worked better.
Yes,
you get to find all that stuff. So it's a lot of time, it's a lot of research, and then also figuring out exactly what you want to do. But I would say
it's huge. Yeah,
I don't know this for a fact, but rather than going Honda to Toyota, Toyota has some good engine platforms. They have the 4AGE. Yep. They have the newer version of that. I forget what it's called, 4SGE or something like that. 4-cylinder, very turboable engine and drivetrain.
I like it.
And it's Toyota. So I know brand to brand, like you can swap Audi engines to Audi engines, and a lot of times the transmissions will bolt up and stuff like that.
They've used a similar transmission for so long.
Yeah, because you think about it, the manufacturers use similar stuff because then they can produce a lot more of the same thing.
Right.
So I would look into on the forums. Obviously, if you're set on K24, run with it.
Right.
And do it.
Right.
But check on the forums what else there is.
Right.
If someone has done if there's a stronger Toyota motor that you can swap in.
Yep.
Obviously, 2JZ, never going to be mad at that. Right. That would be awesome. But for faster revving, rally kind of thing, if that's your goal.
Yeah. Also, I know K-series motors have been making V8s feel pretty sad lately. So have at it, dude. But Google it and see, because there's going to be those universal parts. Somebody has done something similar and we'll have answers for you, especially at 16. Just start joining Facebook groups, looking at the forums, start reading a bunch. That's the big first step to all these swaps, is just reading and figuring out it's way cheaper to spend more time up front figuring out your trajectory and then spending more on the build versus buying stuff just because I found a good deal on this K-series engine. And then you get 6 months in and you realize I wish I would have bought this other one that would have been a couple hundred more, but now I'm way far into this platform.
For sure.
So kind of having an idea where you want to go.
I would say
don't.
So for sure, don't be afraid to ask on the forums and stuff. I know some of that can be intimidating. There are definitely some not so nice people on there,
but it's mostly
it's mostly cool people. And I think us as, I wouldn't say we're veterans in the car community by any means, but we've been doing this for 10 plus years now, as far as doing this, meaning being obsessed with cars.
Right.
So
unhealthy
I think
obsession
and you guys watching, if you've been in this for a while, you've had experience with the swaps. We have a pretty big responsibility to keep this going for the next generation too. And be that cool guy that can help this 16-year-old with a Celica. If you've done this swap before, even if you think He's gonna ask a lot of dumb questions. That's fine. I ask so many stupid questions
I
in
still ask dumb
Datsun
questions
forums and
all the
Audi
time.
forums and stuff. Like it's okay, but like we have a big responsibility to keep that moving forward, and also make sure there's a next generation of awesome car people just like us that can keep this thing going. Because otherwise, we're not gonna have any cool cars to buy at some point. So,
but good for you, Adam. This is cool. I like
awesome,
seeing
man.
that you've
Thanks
got this really clean car. It's cool. Pop up gang. You got the 944 too. So. This is great. Keep working on it. Keep us posted with what you do too. If you decide the direction to go, keep us posted. We'll talk about it in the future too. This is awesome, man. But,
keep sending us updates. Like I know Austin's been doing that. He's been tagging us and stuff. Send us updates. We love that. Love to see that.
That's really
love to see these cars progress.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out too, like how we can, like, what's the platform? Where do we share stuff like this? Because we're still, I don't know, we're still in the very early stages of just figuring out like how do we want to use Instagram? Do we start featuring stuff like this? Is there a place on our website for it? What? But we'll figure that out and start pairs. But please keep sharing stuff. Send it in. Once you have developments on any of these, pass it along. We'd love to hear it and keep going from there. But yeah, Sweet. Just awesome. Can't say enough though, dude. It's really cool to see the 16-year-old with that clean it, because yours was not and mine was not when I was 16. And Tyler's with his BMW and his air conditioning through the floor and all that.
I had that too in the Datsun. Yeah, we had all kinds of rest. So we've got one more. Speaking of Datsun, we'll wrap it up with. I think we're at pretty much time. So we're gonna wrap it up with this one. We got Shad here, Red Rock Resto sent in. Actually, I thought this was this morning. My bad.
I just saw it this morning.
This week, he's got an 83 280ZX. This car is near and dear to my heart. This is like.
It
almost
looks
identical.
Like yours. It's crazy.
It's the same model year. So 79 to 83 was the last run of first run of the 280ZX. That's when they first did that one. They switched to ZX. This one looks like it looks pretty awesome. I think it's a turbo. So you might have to clarify that for us. It's got the turbo hood.
Interesting.
Yeah, this little dip in the hood for the intake on the turbo. But other than that, it looks completely stock. So that's awesome. So
it looks like it's in pretty good shape.
It looks like it's fairly rust free.
Paint's bad. But
it's just a 2-door, which I like. I like the shape of those. I had a 2+2. It's just the only one available. It was new to Datsun's, whatever. So that was kind of like a hatchbacky more of a look, which I didn't really love.
Yeah.
So these I like. It's got some aftermarket mirrors already, aftermarket wheels already.
Yep.
It looks like someone had done some work to it back in the day. It's got some new wiring and stuff.
Got the
radiator.
Mishimoto.
Yeah. So that's awesome, man. I'm excited to see that. So you said, let me see if you had a question. Oh yeah, about starting YouTube.
Yes.
Uploading videos. About the process for storing the Datsun. So we talked about this a little bit. Prior to. But yeah, that's awesome. I would say our biggest, tip for starting YouTube as fairly novice YouTube people ourselves is you got to focus number one on just like being you. Yeah. So like whatever you're recording, however you are, however you like working on stuff, like just be that 100% through and through. You know, don't try to, if you have like that YouTuber like idol that you watch all the time, like you want to have stuff just like them.
Yeah.
I would say don't try to just copy how they do things. Mm-hmm. Obviously, some people have a formula and it works, but like be you 100%, and you're going to find the people that want to watch you and watch the stuff that you're doing.
Right. Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is just post what you want to post. If you put on some act or if you try to do there's like a lot of, I mean, like I'm thinking of that one Miata guy that's got the blue and magenta one that's on TikTok and stuff. Like he has a very unique way of talking about his build and going through stuff. And it's awesome. And if somebody else just tries to replicate and do that, it's not gonna be real to them. That's totally who that guy is. And so just do that. Just post videos of what's going. That's all that this whole podcast has been too. Is just us like, this is how we talk. That's why we did a live before we talk like this normally. Like, but yeah, just to do that, to document what's going on. Don't try to like fluff anything up or like do it. Just like be honest with it. Document the pieces that you want to go through and just start posting it. That's the biggest thing too, is just post it. Like nothing has to be perfect. Nothing has to be super polished or whatever. Just whatever. You're going out in the garage, set your camera up. Hey, this is what we're working on today, and just start sharing it. And people who are interested will follow and interact with it. It'll happen. Organic growth will happen from that. But consistency, if you really want to get into it, consistency is a big thing. So figure 100%. Out kind of, set up for yourself, not to overly structure it, but whatever it is going to be. Every Thursday night, I'm going to take a video and post something about it. And whatever it is, just consistently do that. Carve out time for yourself to do it. Don't get discouraged. It's very hard to start something like that. And you can't let analytics rule your life with it either. Like if people interact, they do. If not, whatever. Ultimately, end of the day, you've got a sick car that you're working on. So just start cruising with it. Definitely send us whatever you start posting with it. We'll watch it. We'll love it. But yeah, that's the biggest thing. Like just be you. Just post stuff like that. I mean, the example that we were talking about before, one of our connections on here, Ryan, I don't know how to say his last name, Krause, but he's the guy, if you guys have seen him on TikTok, doing a beautiful build on a 911, doing all custom metal work for a wide body. That thing is so awesome. And spent
He's making a slant nose, right?
Yeah, making a modern slant nose,
Yeah.
and showing how to do like handmade metal panels for everything.
Yep.
And like I've watched so many of his videos, and it feels, honestly, if you zoom out and you're looking at videos, it feels like a lot of them are kind of the same because he's going over similar pieces as he's going through it all. But it's just it's his project. He doesn't have a timeline for it. He's just working on it in the off time when he can.
And just like he said, he just puts the camera up and just does his thing.
Right.
And like
It's so cool.
I think that's the best thing you can do. Just put your camera up, do your thing. It's going to feel 1,000% awkward at first.
Oh, so much.
For sure. Like our first couple episodes recording, we were like, do I look at you? Do I look at the camera?
Yeah.
Like, what do
Don't
we do?
believe us? Go back to episode 1 through 4.
Right.
We're cruising on like 2 hours of sleep and a high of going on the Attila Dragon. But just do it. Like you just start
put it out
cruise.
there.
And I mean, we're, like we've said a couple weeks ago, we're at the 1 year point in our podcast, and we're just now starting to see like more interaction. We found more people to connect with and things, but it takes time. But don't be discouraged. Don't let not everybody is going to be the next Mr. Beast or whatever it is, but anything can be successful if you like are consistent, you cruise with it. And yeah, just be honest to what you're doing. Just share the process along the way. You're going to connect with people. In this case, on this episode, this is nuts because we talked to one person who is interested in a Datsun and a 944. Both have those. We freaked out about that.
Yeah.
You send in this thing. It looks exactly like the splitting image of what you used to have. Like there are people out there who are working in the similar stuff and like will have advice to give along the way. That's the biggest thing too. If you're documenting building this thing, you're going to run into like whatever the episode where you're taking apart the brake master cylinder and you're wrenching on something like that. And somebody will comment like, oh, hey, like that looks really cool in my car. I don't know if this applies to you, but I did X. And then it's going to cause you to research and look into that. And maybe that's going to be the thing that makes your swap.
I had
so much
that
easier.
a lot when I was doing mine because I was in the mostly Facebook groups when I did mine. And one of the things that the groups are super helpful for, specifically for your car. I know I don't know where you are. Roll Red Rock. That's not around here necessarily, but I know Datsun Midwest is one that I was in for a long time. Still in that, and I still just check out whatever other people are posting. Yeah. But I had one just for an example. I did all the poly bushings through the whole car. And I did 2 of them at the front. You'll see this if you get under your car. They go to, I think it's kind of by the control arms up front. It's kind of like a V up to the front of the car. And I replaced, those all came with the poly bushings too. And I replaced all those. And then I was just posting photos being like, hey guys, this is what I'm working on. And I had so many comments of people like, hey, swap those back to rubber like right now, because it's actually a hazard because they're so stiff and the car isn't strong enough. If you do get in an accident, those will push through and like wreck everything.
No way.
Because they're too stiff. So you got to go back to a rubber bushing. You got to have some
give because it isn't, unless you're reinforcing other things, you got to go back.
Right.
To the thing.
Yeah. Unless I was doing new subframe and stuff. So those people on there are super helpful.
Yeah. I found most people are super helpful on that stuff too. So like if you are, and when you start posting these videos, like finding those groups and sharing sparingly, not spamming it, but sharing sparingly to be like, hey, I'm working on my car. This is what I've worked on this week. That's going to be huge helpful for people. They're going to be receptive to like, hey, cool that somebody else is working on one of these and not letting it rot away. But then those little pieces of like, hey, just FYI, like I've always done this. Or if you have a question in the video and you end the video with a question, that's not a failure. You don't have to have all the answers. But to post something and post that up for like, hey, can anybody suggest anything? People are generally, there's a few people out there that are kind of tool bags or whatever, but like there is a lot of helpful advice from people who've done it before and who, people enjoy talking about their cars. So like if you ask somebody a question that they've already dealt with, they're not going to have an issue talking about it, sharing what they've gone through, their experience and everything. But yeah, awesome, man. Good luck with the 280ZX. Like we said, send us the videos once you start posting things like that. We'd love to see them. And hopefully in the future we can, on the next listener episode, we do something like this. We can, or crew episode, not listener, crew. You guys are part of it. On the next one, we can go over kind of where you're at with it and what's happened with the build so far. But
yeah, definitely keep us updated. Everybody we talk to, everybody we mention, keep us updated, tag us and stuff. We love to see it.
Totally.
That's great.
That's kind of our thing. Thank you so much for interacting and sending this stuff in. As we've said before, we've got our website at now, thirdpedalpodcast.com. We didn't talk about this yet, but this episode comes out on tax day or tax week.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Happy tax day, tax week or whatever when it comes out. Yeah, it's a really fun time.
Whether you're getting a refund from your interest-free loan to the government or you're paying out, we do have our merch store live now. So if you've got a refund coming or you want to support something, we're going to do a coupon code. Let's come up with a coupon code right now. We're going to do 10% off
Let's
site-wide.
do Crew 10.
Crew 10. All right.
Yeah,
Crew
you guys
10.
are Crew. You guys get it. Crew 10.
Perfect. So thirdpedalpodcast.com. Check out the merch store. We got some hoodies. We got t-shirts. We got hats, stickers, stuff like that. The one we're most excited about is that this is my garage shirt design, designed to get dirty. So go to there, put in code Crew 10. You'll get 10% off. And tag us when you get your shirts and stuff. We're trying to put together a library so we can show everybody that's in our crew, everybody wearing the merch, everything like that. But yeah, thank you so much for listening. We'll catch you next week.
Peace.
There it is.